News of the old man's death had just broken, and I was ready to run. I packed overnight, intending to disappear before the dust settled. I didn't expect my half-brother, the Prince of Manhattan, to block my door with such precision. Julian Thorne slammed a check onto the table with a sharp thwack. $50 million. Marry the sterling heiress, Victoria, in my place. Faced with this astronomical wealth, I agreed without hesitation, promising to uphold professional ethics and never touch my sister-in-law. 5 years later, Julian returned. He arranged a meeting. Caleb, you've lived a life of luxury under my identity for 5 years. Now, it's time to return what belongs to the owner. I pondered for a moment before making a request. Help me set up a new identity abroad. Once I leave and settle down, you can do whatever you want. I had to leave. Given Victoria Sterling's ruthless and domineering nature, if she found out I deceived her for 5 years, she'd chop me up and feed me to the fishes. But later, things went a little beyond my expectations. I was in the kitchen, baking the vanilla cupcakes my daughter, Lily, loved so much. Suddenly, I received a text from an unknown number. The 5 years are up. Come to the address below. I froze, the whisk slipping from my hand and hitting the floor with a clang. Sir, Arthur, the butler, rushed in upon hearing the noise. Is everything all right? Are you feeling unwell? I snapped back to reality, my throat dry. No, I'm fine. Just remembered something and got distracted. I took a breath to steady myself. Arthur, keep an eye on the oven. I need to go out and handle something. As soon as the words left my mouth, I grabbed my coat and left the villa. Time really does fly. 5 years had passed in the blink of an eye. In the car, watching the city architecture blur past, it felt as if those 5 years were merely a fleeting moment. Sometimes, when you wear a mask for too long, you start to believe it's your real face. But it was all just a mirage. The fake can never become real. 5 years ago, upon learning of the death of the Thorne family patriarch, I had hurriedly packed my luggage and my late mother's belongings, preparing to flee. I never expected my half-brother, Julian Thorne, to suddenly show up at my door. He saw the packed bags but said nothing, walking into the living room and sitting down as if he owned the place. Seeing his superior attitude, my hand unconsciously clenched the hem of my shirt. The old man who had ignored us, mother and son, was dead. Was the younger one here to settle scores? We lived like rats in the gutter, never impacting the high and mighty Thorne family. Why wouldn't they just let us go? Calm down. I'm here to make a deal, Julian said, pulling out a black card and slapping it on the table. There's $50 million in this account. As long as you agree, the money is yours. I stared in disbelief at the check filled with zeros. $50 million. My mind went blank, temporarily forgetting my anger. After a long while, I swallowed hard and met Julian's deep, abyssal eyes. What kind of deal? I have business that requires me to go abroad for 5 years. You will act as my double, marry Victoria Sterling of the Sterling dynasty, and take care of my daughter. My eyes widened as I looked at the man who looked 90% like me. It felt surreal. Julian ignored my shock and continued. However, during this period, you cannot have any intimate behavior with Victoria, no kissing, and absolutely no sleeping together. He leaned forward. If you can do that, the money is yours. If you break the contract or get discovered, you can imagine the consequences. He glanced at the expensive watch on his wrist. I'll give you 5 minutes to consider. Recovering my senses, my subconscious reaction was to refuse. But then I thought of the debts my mother had incurred to put me through college and the predatory loans I had taken out to buy her a burial plot. The words of refusal died in my throat. After a long silence, I agreed. Julian showed no emotion at the result. He stood up, straightening his impeccably tailored suit. The wedding is in a month. I'll have someone train you during this time. He walked to the door. I will announce to the public that after the marriage, I am placing the Thorne Corporation in a trust and stepping back behind the scenes to focus on my family. Without waiting for a reply, he left. Just like that, I paid off the debts and achieved financial freedom. The name Caleb Stone was temporarily sealed away. There was only the house husband who washed his hands of the world to make soup for his wife and daughter, Julian Thorne. Since Victoria Sterling was a career-obsessed woman, we didn't officially meet until the wedding day. A month of grueling training allowed me to suppress the panic in my heart and calmly face the titans of New York society. The wedding went smoothly. I even smiled and promised Victoria, I will be a good husband and I will be a good father. This promise lasted for 5 years, long enough that even I forgot my original, lowly identity that couldn't see the light of day. But now, the dream was over. It was time for it to end. The Maybach pulled up outside a private estate. The bodyguard at the gate ushered me into a garden tea house. The first thing I saw was Julian, leisurely sipping tea. He was much thinner than he had been 5 years ago. If not for that indifferent demeanor and those familiar features, I might not have recognized him. Not bad. You look the part of a man of status now, he said calmly, gesturing for me to sit. Try this vintage tea. It's from a private reserve. Ordinary people can't drink this. Heh, throwing barbs right from the start, reminding me I was just an unpresentable stand-in. Forever the illegitimate son, the Thorne family hid away. He acted as if he didn't see my reaction, pouring me a cup before drinking his own. The atmosphere fell into a dead silence. I stared at him intently, while he casually admired the garden view. After a long silence, he looked at the cold tea in front of me and sighed. Still so impatient. You don't need to do this. I don't intend to overstay my welcome, I said, cutting straight to the chase. Good. You haven't forgotten your roots. Living the high life with my reputation for 5 years. That self-awareness is commendable. Bang! I slammed my hand on the tea table, liquid splashing out as the cups rattled. Haven't seen you in a few years, and your temper has grown. Julian wasn't annoyed. He pressed his hand down in a calming motion. All right, I was just joking. I called you here to tell you it's time to vacate the position and pack your things. He paused. However, this time I want to hear your opinion. I'll cooperate with you. I calmed down, locking eyes with him for a long time before speaking. Give me a new identity abroad. I'll find an excuse to leave the country, then disappear. I lean back. You know Victoria's ruthless personality toward outsiders. If she finds out I deceive her for 5 whole years, she'll likely kill me. Duh. Julian tapped his fingers rhythmically on the table. There's an identity that fits you perfectly. You can leave anytime. Business concluded, I couldn't help but ask, you aren't going to ask about Lily? What is there to ask? He lowered his eyes. We're meeting soon anyway. A few days won't matter. Besides, she's been raised by an outsider like you for 5 years. If she turned out crooked, I might not have much interest in her. Hearing him say this, my fist instantly hardened. Was this the attitude a biological father should have? Did he not care? Thinking of the child's parents, a nameless fire burned in my chest. Even though I did it for money, hearts are made of flesh. I watched that child grow from a tiny thing to who she is now. It was impossible not to have feelings. The father was a weirdo who paid a double to act the part. The mother was a workaholic busy with the Sterling Empire, practically ignoring the child. Looking at Julian's calm face, I unclenched my fist. Forget it. What was I angry about? Ultimately, this was their family matter. What did it have to do with an outsider like me? I stood up. If there's nothing else, I'm going. Julian didn't speak, just gave me a pleased gesture. Seeing that I still had time, I decided to drive to pick Lily up from school. As soon as I arrived at the school gate, a crisp voice rang out. Daddy! The little girl's eyes were like radar. She spotted me instantly. Didn't you say you weren't coming to pick me up today? I scooped her up and planted a kiss on her cheek, making her giggle. Daddy finished work early. I saw I had time, so I came to get you myself. As I spoke, I noticed Lily was holding a new toy. Seeing me look at it, she shook it in front of me like she was presenting a treasure. Daddy, isn't this toy cool? An uncle came to school to see me at lunch today. He saw how good I was being, so he gave it to me. An uncle. I didn't react immediately, but her next sentence struck me like lightning. Yeah, it was an uncle who looked really, really like you, Daddy. Did? My voice trembled slightly. Did he say anything? No. Lily blinked her big, spirited eyes and answered simply. He said I looked a lot like his daughter, and seeing how well-behaved I was, he gave me the toy. My body swayed involuntarily, a wave of dizziness hitting me. Julian, what the hell are you doing? Why does the herbal soup taste weird today? At the dinner table, I was absent-mindedly feeding the child when I heard Victoria's cool voice. I snapped back to reality and saw her frowning. I subconsciously pushed the soup bowl aside. Something was wrong. I had tasted the soup after making it. The flavor was perfect. Alarm bells rang in my head. Did she know something? I forced myself to remain calm, showing an apologetic smile. Maybe I rushed it. I'll make you a fresh bowl right now. After speaking, I picked up the soup and headed for the kitchen. Because of her heavy workload, Victoria suffered from severe cramps during that time of the month. I had learned to make this specific wellness soup to minimize the pain. I figured I'd just make it twice for her as a final gesture. After all, I wouldn't need to do it anymore. Forget it, she called out, waving her hand. Sit down and eat. It doesn't hurt that much this time. I'll just drink some hot tea. I nodded and returned to the table to continue feeding Lily. Internally, I breathed a sigh of relief. Maybe I was just being paranoid. After taking care of the child's dinner and sending her to her room to play, Victoria suddenly dropped a comment. You're acting a bit off today. No, I'm not. I squeezed out a smile. I was just thinking about how picky Lily is getting. Look, she barely touched these vegetables. If I didn't force-feed her a few bites, she wouldn't eat them at all. Victoria noticed the leftover vegetables on the child's plate, but her sharp intuition made me panic. She walked slowly to my side, looking down at me. No, you have something on your mind. You wouldn't be zoning out this frequently over something so minor. Facing Victoria's starry, moving eyes, I recited the excuse I had prepared in advance. Today, Lily accepted a gift from a stranger without any guard up. Even though it was inside the kindergarten, I'm still worried something bad could happen. So, I was thinking about how to improve her vigilance without affecting her personality. Is that so? Victoria looked skeptical. You don't need to be so cautious. If you have something to say it. Where did that domineering arrogance of the Prince of Manhattan go? As the second half of her sentence landed, my heart gave a violent thump. My whole body felt itchy, like ants were crawling on me. But to Victoria, it seemed she thought her words were too harsh, so her tone softened. Don't misunderstand. Since we got married, you've sacrificed so much for this family. I just don't want you to be too tired. You're starting to seem unlike your old self. Why don't you try finding something you enjoy doing? My chest felt tight. Maybe it was true that stone could be warmed by heat. After 5 years of living together day and night, she had slowly gone from a business partner to treating me like family. But the more she did this, the more scared I felt. Lies always get punctured eventually, and that day wasn't far off. God knows what Victoria would do to me once she knew the truth. I still have work to process. You think about it yourself. I paused, then sighed. Okay, go get busy. Just when I thought I had dodged a bullet, Victoria stopped at the top of the stairs and suddenly asked, You really haven't lied to me, have you? I looked up in shock, only to find she hadn't stopped walking. She continued toward the study, as if she were talking to herself. Despite that, the phantom ants returned, and my body broke out in a cold sweat. No, I had to leave immediately. Late at night, seeing that Lily was fast asleep, I crept out of bed and gently closed the door. Passing the study, I saw a light spilling from the crack beneath the door. Victoria was still working. I stood there for a long time, imagining her silhouette still busy at her desk. In the past, when she worked overtime, I would always make her a midnight snack and massage her temples. Over 5 years, it had become a habit. But this time, I better pack my bags while I could, or it would really be too late. I ran to the storage room and dug out 2 large suitcases that had been gathering dust. Over 5 years, I had accumulated quite a few things. Limited edition watches, various haute couture outfits. I couldn't leave my babies behind. The more I packed, the more absorbed I became. It was just a pity I couldn't drive the luxury cars away. As I zipped up the last suitcase, I felt like some terrifying, indescribable thing was staring at my back. I felt uncomfortable all over. I turned around instinctively, eyes wide. Victoria was leaning against the door frame, expressionless, scrutinizing me as I packed. Crap. I bit the tip of my tongue to force myself to stay calm and squeezed out a smile I hoped looked natural. Honey, you're done working. Are you hungry? I can cook you some noodles. She stared at me with a smile that wasn't a smile, her tone terrifyingly gentle. Packing in the middle of the night. Where are you going? I scratched my head, my brain processing excuses at high speed. I suddenly did some reflecting. You were right. I'm too uptight lately, not like my old self. So I thought I'd go abroad, travel around, clear my head, and reinvent myself. Victoria didn't speak. She stared at me for a long while, then simply nodded. Fine. I secretly sighed in relief and decided to commit to the act. By the way, while I'm gone, remember to eat on time. Also, Lily looks lively and sensible, but she's afraid of being lonely. Try to make time to accompany her. And her baby teeth are starting to come loose, so don't let her eat too much hard food. What do you mean? Victoria's tone carried a hint of ice. This doesn't sound like a trip. It sounds like you're arranging your last will and testament. I froze, the corner of my mouth twitching. I suppose it was a final goodbye. Seeing I wasn't speaking, Victoria stepped closer to me. She backed me into the corner, using a slender finger to lift my chin. I swallowed nervously, daring not to say a word. At this proximity, I could see her flawless, beautiful face even more clearly. I'm hungry now, but I don't want a snack. What if I want to eat you? She breathed the words out, her other hand tracing circles on my heaving chest. No, I couldn't blow my cover at this critical moment. She and Julian already had a child, or so the story went. If she experienced the goods and found the size and details didn't match, I was dead meat. My brain spun into overdrive again. I instantly doubled over, crying out in pain. Ouch, my stomach hurts. Honey, wait a second. Before she could reply, I sprinted into the bathroom and locked the door with a click. I leaned my back against the door, clutching my pounding heart. But from outside came Victoria's displeased voice. You really have endurance. Married for 5 years, and every time, you either have a stomach ache or you're not in the mood. Are you a monk? Or are you impotent? If you have the guts, hide in there for the rest of your life and don't come out. I leaned against the door, looking at myself in the mirror, and let out a bitter laugh. I'm sorry. I didn't want this either. Having a gorgeous woman in front of me every day that I could look at, but not touch. It was torture, but I was just an unpresentable, illegitimate son, a fake standing in for Julian Thorne. Looking at myself in the mirror again, tears flowed uncontrollably. 5 years. I like you too. I hope everything gets back on track after I leave. Finally, I wish your family of 3 happiness in the future. At 5 a.m., I got up and went to the kitchen to make one last breakfast for the mother and daughter. Seeing it was time, I dragged my suitcases and left the villa. Before stepping out, I looked back at the home where I had lived for 5 years. Victoria, take care of yourself. You are flesh and blood, not a tireless machine. Lily, I'm sorry Daddy lied to you. I hope you won't hate me. Grow up happy and joyful. Wiping my hot eyes, I hesitated no longer and stepped out the door. I had already arranged with Julian I would go to a visa-free country first, and someone would meet me at the airport with my new identity. The final destination was Rio de Janeiro in South America. It was like summer all year round there. Hanging out by the beach wouldn't be bad. After nearly 24 hours of travel, I finally set foot on that land. Just as I exited the airport, I received a photo from Julian. In the photo, Lily was drawing earnestly. Zooming in, I could see the drawing was of a thin, handsome man reading a book. No need to guess. The subject was Julian himself. I stared at it for a long time, my heart feeling a bit sour. But I quickly gathered my emotions and didn't reply. Just as I got into the taxi to head to the rental I'd arranged, my phone buzzed again. It was Julian again. You were terrible at educating the child. 5 years old and still doing childish things like drawing. I wanted to retort. I had been a good father and husband for 5 years. But thinking that Julian might see it as a provocation, I stopped my trembling hand. I thought about my wording and replied, "She's still small. Now that you, her biological father, are back, you have plenty of time to teach her slowly. I've arrived. I'm canceling this number. Let's both live well." Julian didn't reply again. I arrived at the beachside apartment I had contacted in advance, snapped my domestic SIM card, and swapped in a new number. I walked to the balcony, looking at the beautiful scenery and the crowds on the beach nearby. Thinking of the $50 million sitting in my offshore account, what was there to be sad about? A new life had begun. Caleb Stone, you can be yourself again. 1 month passed. I explored every corner of this beach city. I made many new friends along the way. They taught me to surf, play beach volleyball, and throw beach parties. It was so pleasant I almost forgot home. But there was one catch. My hand got itchy, and I scrolled through social media for back home. I saw a lot of news about Julian and Victoria attending major events. The whole internet was blessing this golden couple, a match made in heaven. Some netizens who had been following closely even said the Prince of Manhattan had made a comeback, no longer a stay-at-home dad. This made my happy mood sink rapidly. To keep up appearances back then, we announced I was stepping back to take care of the family. Except for necessary occasions where spouses were required, I generally stayed home to take care of Victoria and Lily. But what was with that bright smile of hers? In those 5 years, although she slowly accepted her arranged husband, she never smiled at me from the bottom of her heart like that. And now that the real one was back, her face was overflowing with happy smiles. I always thought she just wasn't a smiler. What exactly was I jealous of? They were the original couple. I was just a paid stand-in. Besides, they had a child born of love. Though speaking of which, 5 years of look but don't touch was pretty suffocating. Should I go have some fun with one of those fit ladies with the killer abs on the beach? Another week passed. I suddenly felt bored. Constant partying and indulgence only led to emptiness. I bought a lot of books on computer science and AI, my major in college. The AI wave was sweeping the globe right now. With decent cash flow in hand, I could absolutely try to start a business and give myself something to do. One day, I was coding a framework when knocking and shouting came from the door. "Caleb, open up, I need you." Recognizing the voice, it was my model friend who had been taking care of me, Larissa. The moment I opened the door, a face like an Egyptian queen framed by long dark hair filled my vision. She held up her phone for me to see. "Caleb, look. A super rich young couple from your homeland is throwing a birthday party for their child. The scale is no less than a major awards ceremony. And this man looks exactly like you. Are you brothers?" The rapid-fire foreign language stunned me. I looked closely and realized she was talking about Julian and Victoria. Calculating the date, I remembered Today was Lily's birthday. Before I knew it, the little girl was 6. And this little girl, Larissa pointed at the screen, her maternal instincts overflowing. She's so beautiful, like a doll. I wish I could have such a cute daughter. Indeed, I forced a smile. Looking at the excited beauty, I didn't have the heart to kill the vibe, so I changed the subject. You didn't come here just to show me news, did you? Of course not. She looked a bit dejected. My vacation is ending. I want to invite you to a costume party tonight. Consider it a send-off for me, okay? Looking at this friend, I'd only known for a month, but got along with so well, I had no reason to refuse. Okay, great. Larissa pumped her fist happily. I knew you were my best friend, Caleb. I'll go back and prepare. I'll send a stylist to get you ready and bring you to the venue later. I smiled and nodded. Okay, see you tonight. An hour later, after I finished my task for the day, the stylist arrived. After a brief discussion, I decided to go for a dark night look. When a makeup artist saw my Eastern face perfectly pulling off the Western style, along with the abs that fit seamlessly into the outfit, she went crazy and snapped some photos. She asked if she could post them on her social media account. I had no reason to refuse that, so I readily agreed. But for some reason, from the moment she posted that photo, I felt a strange uneasiness. I didn't think too much of it. Maybe I was just internally excited. Although I had been a house husband for 5 years, I had kept my physique in peak condition. When I arrived at the venue, many men and women in various costumes were already gathered. I looked around for a long time, but couldn't find Larissa. Helpless, I sent her a message. She replied instantly, though it wasn't good news. Dearest Caleb, I am so sorry. My agent took me to a gig. I can't join you at the party. I'm really sorry. I smiled indifferently and replied, no worries, work is important, but promise to treat me to a big meal next time as compensation. Seeing her reply with an okay emoji, I put away my phone and wandered around alone. The party was lively. The young crowd was partying hard. I had just finished dancing with a girl who had a stunning figure and went back to the sidelines to rest. Unexpectedly, a tall woman with long black hair walked up to me. Since we were all wearing masks, I could only generally judge that she seemed to be a fellow countrywoman. However, my heart skipped a beat subconsciously. I felt something was wrong with this woman, and there was a sense of familiarity. The woman was aggressive. She reached out and lifted my chin. The familiar scent of her perfume made me tremble all over. Julian Thorne. No, I should call you Caleb Stone, right? The familiar voice made my brain buzz. I was cracking apart. I couldn't believe it. Shouldn't she be back home, throwing a birthday banquet for the kid? I reached out a trembling hand and took off the woman's mask. A pair of star-like eyes stared unblinkingly at me. The mask in my hand hit the floor with a clatter. Impressive, Caleb. Using soul-searching as an excuse to play dead and disappear, just to run here and live it up? I instinctively took a tactical step back, but I tripped over a chair leg. Just as I thought I was going to fall, Victoria displayed strength I didn't know she had and forcefully steadied me. A 150-pound man. Seeing me dazed, she reversed the roles, wrapping one arm around my waist and leaning her exquisite face close to mine. You haven't answered me. You ran away from home just to flirt with foreign women. Also, I was wondering why you acted like a monk. Turns out you're fake. Afraid of getting caught, right? I snapped out of it, my lower back engaging as I righted myself and pushed her away. Because of my guilty conscience, my voice lacked confidence. I had no choice. I'm just an illegitimate son who can't show his face, and I was hundreds of thousands in debt. For the sake of me taking care of you and your daughter for 5 years, can you let me go? As a man, begging a woman so humbly was a bit degrading. But Victoria wasn't someone to be trifled with. She was ruthless to her enemies, not only shorting their stocks to bankrupt them, but setting traps that left entire families in debt and begging on the street. How could a penniless, powerless, illegitimate son like me dare to offend her? Silence. Absolute silence. The scene had already been cleared by her bodyguards. Irrelevant people were removed. She stared at me for a long time, then sneered. You and Julian teamed up to deceive me for so many years. Do you think there's a way out for you two brothers? Also, Victoria interrupted directly, a cold glint in her eyes. Do you think that 50 million came entirely from him? I froze. What did she mean? Julian didn't put up all the money. This news shocked me. Suddenly, pain shot through my ear. Victoria didn't give me a chance to speak. She grabbed my ear and marched me outside. Come back with me. Now. No. I broke free, rubbing my stinging ear. Victoria's eyes held a playful look. Didn't expect that. In just over a month, you've got a backbone. Then her tone turned instantly cold. Don't make me say it a second time, or I'll sink you in the ocean to feed the fish. I couldn't help but shudder. This woman wasn't joking. If I pushed her, she would absolutely follow through. I followed Victoria back to New York. The whole way I was distracted. Of course, Victoria had switched back to work mode and didn't have time to pay attention to me. I couldn't figure it out. The Thorne family wasn't much worse off than the Sterling family. How was the cover blown? My first suspect was Julian. But why would he do something so thankless? I racked my brain, but couldn't understand the twists and turns. I subconsciously looked out the car window and realized something was wrong. This wasn't the way to the Sterling villa. I looked at Victoria, who was resting with her eyes closed. She sensed it and said softly, still eyes closed, "You'll know when we get there." I suppressed my curiosity and let it happen. Half an hour later, the car slowly stopped in the parking lot of the cemetery. "Get out," Victoria said, opening the door. "There's a jacket for you in the trunk. Put it on." I nodded and did as told. It was late autumn back home. Because I was forced to return, I hadn't even packed. I was still wearing the thin dark night costume. If it weren't a private jet, I would have died of social embarrassment. Walking past rows of tombstones, a familiar figure came into view not far away. It was Julian. I froze, letting Victoria grab my hand and pull me forward. "Here." I brought him back. "Explain it to him yourself." She shoved me forward, warning, "If you don't explain it clearly, then there's no need for the Thorne Corporation to exist anymore." Julian gave a bitter smile. "Don't worry, I'll explain everything." Victoria nodded. "Then I'll head back to the office. You handle yourself." With that, she left without even looking at me. Seeing the scene, I was confused. But even a fool would know something was going on, and it related to me, so I got straight to the point. "Julian, what kind of game are you playing? Is tricking me fun? Don't get excited yet. Look at the owner of this tombstone, and then I'll tell you." He pointed at the grave. I followed his finger, my eyes widening instantly in disbelief. The owner of the tombstone was a woman who looked exactly like Victoria. The name was Vanessa Sterling. At that moment, I stood there as if struck by lightning. Were they twins? And Julian, as if he could read minds, spoke directly. "This is Victoria's twin sister, and she is my, Julian Thorne's, real wife." "Then, how did?" I asked subconsciously. Julian smiled miserably, squatting down to touch the cold tombstone. "You and Annie lived on the outside, so you didn't know that Vanessa and I were childhood sweethearts. The marriage alliance between the Sterling and Thorne families was real, but I actually married Vanessa." He sighed. "But for the heir of the Thorne family to marry a second daughter of the Sterlings with no real power, well, it wouldn't sound good. So we suppressed the news of the wedding from the media. Only the uncles in our inner circle knew." I suddenly realized the truth. "Is Lily your and her daughter?" "Yes." Julian stood up, eyes full of longing. "But heaven didn't favor us. Vanessa died due to complications during childbirth." Hearing him say this, I was thoroughly confused. Even though it was tragic that this sister-in-law I was vaguely connected to had died young, that wasn't a reason to sell me out and drag me back. Just as I was about to ask, Julian suddenly grabbed my hand and placed it on his left arm. "Try pinching me. Use some strength. Consider it venting your anger. You asked for it." I didn't hold back. I pinched hard, wanted to see this guy cringe. But I froze, because I used all my strength to pinch him, yet he showed no reaction whatsoever. How can that be? I let go, blurting out the words. "It's ALS." "What?" I asked in disbelief, shouting. That was known as one of the world's terminal illnesses. Julian remained emotionless, continuing to speak. "Vanessa's death was already a huge blow to me, but fate breaks the brittle thread. Not long after, I was diagnosed with ALS." He looked at me. "You know, the old man was already in the late stages of cancer with only a few days to live, and I contracted this terminal illness. So, we approached the Sterling family, hoping that for the sake of the older generation's friendship, they would help us push you forward." "Wait, hold on." My head was buzzing. "What does any of this have to do with me?" "Because you're also a Thorne. The original plan was to let you suffer a bit more, temper you in society for a few years, and then bring you back to the Thorne family to help me. But with this happening, I had to change the plan and push you out early. Finding you to be a stand-in for the marriage was just a preliminary test. You know, our father caused a tragedy between you and your mother because he couldn't control his urges. So I didn't want you to be like that." He looked me in the eye. "A man who values promises and can control his desires implies the backbone needed for a family and a corporate helmsman. As for letting you live abroad for a while, that was the final test. You didn't disappoint me. During that time, at most you hugged girls and drank some alcohol. You didn't do anything out of line, and you even taught yourself new skills. That is commendable." I pursed my lips, unconvinced in my heart. "That wasn't because I didn't want to. It was because a woman who played that hard at a party. Who would dare to sleep with her easily? What if I caught something? I hadn't enjoyed life properly yet. For the harm he caused you and Auntie, on behalf of the Thorne family, I apologize to you. As he spoke, he bowed to me sincerely. My nose stung. Years ago, Richard Thorne got drunk at a banquet and mistook my mother, who had just started working as a server at the hotel, for his deceased wife. An accident happened, and I was the product of that accident. Richard cared about his reputation. He kept my mother as a canary in a gilded cage to hide it from outsiders. After I was born, he wanted to pay my mother off to leave. That made my mother, who had a fierce personality, furious. She held a knife to her own neck and mine. To prevent a scandal, Richard chose to back down and pretended he never had a son like me. My mother had a backbone too. She took me and moved out of the luxury apartment, living in an old house in the suburbs. Working days, picking up scraps at night. That was the reality for me and my mom. Of that massive debt, $100 grand was borrowed by my mother amidst the curses of relatives to fund my high school and college. The rest came from online loans I took out as a son to buy her a decent burial plot. Thinking of this, I sighed deeply, but I didn't know what to say. I returned to the Sterling estate holding a stack of transfer contracts. My mind was still replaying Julian's last words. Caleb, I won't force you to change your name, but you must take over the Thorne family. Only then can I leave in peace. These past few years, I've endured the pain of treatment abroad, but it can only delay the inevitable. The result is the same. While I still have autonomy for a few years, you need to study company management and business skills properly so the Thorne Corporation can remain stable. And Victoria actually likes you. She will help you intimidate those who aren't loyal. Just like that, a bizarre fantasy plot of the illegitimate son inheriting the family business played out on me. The setup, the tests. I could barely digest them now. But he said Victoria liked me? I hadn't seen a trace of that. Just as I was zoning out, the main door opened. The butler led Lily, carrying her small backpack, inside. Seeing me, Arthur greeted me warmly. Sir, you're back. The little miss has missed you terribly. I instinctively looked at Lily. Her expression shifted from initial happiness to a look of arrogant pouting. Seeing me look over, the little girl's mouth pouted even higher. Oomph. Big liar. With that, she stomped upstairs. My mouth tasted bitter. Arthur walked over and whispered, Master Caleb, the little miss, and I both know. But rest assured, you are the son-in-law of the Sterling family. That won't change. I looked at him suspiciously. Some things aren't my place to say as a servant. Wait for the miss to return, talk to her personally, and you'll know. Fina, you're all noble. Just keep me in the dark and treat me like a fool. I nodded, then walked toward Lily's room. Walking to the door, I found it deliberately left ajar. I smiled, pushed it open, and walked in. Seeing me enter, the little girl turned her head away. What are you doing here? Seeing the daughter I raised single-handedly acting like a little adult, I couldn't help but want to laugh. I suppressed the smile. You know everything? Uh-huh. Lily hugged her doll, looking down and kneading it. He said you're my uncle. My heart clenched. I didn't know how to explain, but her next sentence stunned me. But I want you to keep being my daddy. But they said we have to listen to your opinion. The little girl's voice got quieter at the end, as if afraid of rejection. Without overthinking, I walked up quickly, pulled her in my arms, and gently patted her back. As long as you still acknowledge me as your father, I always will be. Really? The little girl sobbed. You won't leave me behind again? I won't, I said firmly. Then let's pinky swear. She held out her little finger. I matched her gesture, then gently wiped away her tears with my thumb. Victoria didn't come back for dinner. I didn't ask Arthur to prepare food. Instead, I took Lily out to eat her favorite comfort food. When we got home, it was late. After helping Lily wash up, the little girl fell asleep satisfied. I was tired too, but I couldn't sleep yet. I had to wait for that woman to come back and clear things up and fight for custody of Lily. Although she wasn't biologically mine, I raised her from tiny thing. She was my emotional anchor. The way she was sensible yet cautious reminded me of my own childhood. I sat on the sofa, drowsy. Arthur and the nanny had already been sent away to rest. Just as my eyelids were fighting each other, the sound of the door opening woke me. Victoria was back. Seeing me sitting on the sofa silently like a ghost, she jumped. Surprised, she asked, Why aren't you resting? Waiting for you. I kept it brief. Let's talk. Putting on the airs of the Thorne heir already, Victoria teased, sitting next to me. I instinctively scooted over, not wanting to be too close. Didn't Julian explain it clearly? Seeing me like this, she was displeased. He and I are just partners. Even a marriage certificate is fake. Strictly speaking, Lily is just my niece. I know. Then what do you mean? I didn't hide anything. I want to leave, but I want to discuss something. Since you don't have time to accompany Lily, let me take her. I'll adopt her until she gets married and has kids. What did you say? Don't get excited. I pressed my hand down. Her legal custody can stay with you. I just don't want her childhood to be lonely. It's unfair to her. She already has no mother, and her father is fast. I paused, then added, of course, I can visit her often, but I need your nod. You want to leave that badly? Victoria's eyes instantly reddened. I was startled. It was the first time I'd seen her like this. But I quickly calmed myself. Why wouldn't I? There's stuff to learn at Thorncorp, and I want to shed the shadow of the past and start over. I didn't say the thoughts in my heart. Actually, I like you too, but do I deserve you? Although Victoria was ruthless and domineering externally, she was impeccable to her family. Her nature wasn't bad. If anyone else had taken care of her tirelessly for 5 years, she probably would have accepted them too. That's not a conflict. You can still live here. I won't disturb the life you want. I frowned, confused. Reason? Because Victoria's voice trembled. Because I like you. I've liked you for a long time. What? I was thunderstruck by this inexplicable like. Come to the study. I'll show you something, and you'll understand. Without waiting for a reply, she dragged me to the study. When I saw that the safe, which usually no one was allowed near, contained only a delicate wooden box, I was confused. Shouldn't this store cash and important documents? Why just a small wooden box? But in the next instant, I knew the answer, and I was shocked again. Inside were photos of me from childhood to college, but many were taken with a telephoto lens, candid shots. I was truly baffled and blurted out, why do you have so many photos of me? And candid ones? No, Caleb, it's not what you think. Seeing me misunderstand, Victoria, who was immersed in beautiful memories, suddenly panicked. She panicked? The daughter of the richest family, the real CEO of the Sterling Group, actually panicked. Who would believe that? Victoria didn't care about anything else and spilled everything. Do you remember, when you were 5, you helped a little girl who fell and was crying because she was being bullied by other kids? A little girl who fell. I rubbed my chin, recalling. It seemed there was such a thing. Seeing I remember a bit, she said excitedly, I was that little girl? Back then, I thought my family was too strict, so I snuck out to play with other kids. But those boys saw my clothes and tried to grab my phone and pull my braid. When I fought back, they pushed me down. You used a wooden stick to chase them away and save me. I was terrified then, but your appearance made me less afraid. You saw me crying and even gave me a lollipop. She took a candy wrapper from the bottom of the box, smiling sweetly. Seeing this, I remembered too. That candy was for my mom because I placed first in class. I couldn't bear to eat it, so I gave it to that little girl. But that memory wasn't exactly beautiful for me. I hit too hard that time. I cracked one boy's bone. The wages my mom had just received were all paid out in compensation, and she had to borrow more to settle it. The result was predictable. Although Mom supported my bravery, because I was too heavy-handed, she hung me up and beat me for 2 days. Later, the butler and bodyguards found me and took me home. I was punished severely. I cried and begged my family to find you. When I learned your family paid a lot of money, I asked someone to send money back, but your mother refused it. Since then, I used my allowance to hire private investigators to watch over you. Later, when I grew up, I used my pocket money and salary to keep watching you. When Julian approached me with that play, I realized you were his half-brother, so I thought I'd go with the flow and see what you were like in person. I was speechless. I could understand a one-track mind being a bit dense, but for a major CEO to mess around like this, treating me like a plaything, this reminded me of the wedding. Richard Sterling's expression like a pig had dug up his best cabbage, and the amused looks of those tycoons. Turns out everyone was acting together. I was wallowing in the resentment of being played. Suddenly, my hand was grabbed. Victoria's eyes were red, and she squeezed out a sentence with difficulty. Can you not go? It was wrong of me. I regretted it the first year of our marriage. Can you give me a chance to make it up to you? I raised an eyebrow, looking at her in surprise. I took a deep breath and pried her hand away. No. 1 month later, after training, I was attempting to handle Thorn Corporation affairs. So far, so good. Specialists handle the specific tasks. The only headache was the tech and AI business I always wanted to do. I was too naive back then, thinking all I needed was capital and people. Turns out, doing it right was a massive engineering project. Times change. Whether it was the Thorn Group or the Sterling Wealth, we had to advance with the times, or foreign competitors would strangle us. Initially, I considered bringing Victoria in as a partner. The Sterling Group had a foundation in this area, which would save upfront investment. But she said, sure, I can even give you that tech company. As long as you move back in and get the marriage license with me, I'll give you another $2 billion in funding. Being manipulated for 5 years, was I going to walk the old path again? As a man, I turned and walked away. Just as I was frowning in worry, Julian sent a message. He said, I poached computer science experts from abroad, plus some equipment and technology. They arrive in a week. I wasn't overjoyed. Instead, I worried. How are you lately, brother? He remained cool. Same old. I'm mainly traveling the globe now. Want to walk around and see more. My nose stung. Come back if you're tired. Remember, don't give up. Miracles happen. Julian didn't reply again. He was a proud man. I knew he was traveling the world with Vanessa's ashes. As wealthy heirs, ordinary people envied them. But few knew the pressure they bore was beyond imagination. I sniffled. Wanted to text Victoria, I don't need you anymore. Just then, the office door opened. Victoria walked in, holding Lily's hand. Daddy, seeing me, the little girl ran over on her short legs. I got a little red flower today. You said you'd take me to the amusement park. My heart melted. I picked her up and kissed her. Okay, Daddy keeps his word. We'll rent out the park tomorrow, so you can play all you want. Seeing us acting out a scene of filial piety, Victoria, who had been left to dry on the side, wasn't happy. She picked a fight. Where's the old secretary? Why change to a female one? And a special assistant, too. Easy on the eyes. I replied, airily, that's your taste? Looks like a fox, she sneered. As long as I like looking at her, I retorted directly, you, Victoria choked. Huh. This scene had played out plenty of times this month. Since the day I refused to leave her house, I'd been avoiding her. Business-wise, I sent subordinates to contact the Sterling Group and just looked at the results. Lily lived up to being my little daddy's girl. Sensing I didn't want to see her Annie, she always dragged the butler along to find me. After a few times, this woman Victoria got smart. She stopped doing everything herself at work and started holding Lily hostage to command me, Caleb Stone. She calculated that I couldn't bear to get red-faced with her in front of my precious daughter. After a long while, Victoria squeezed out a sentence. I'm jealous. Be jealous then. Doesn't cost anything, I said dismissively. She couldn't bear it anymore, staring at me with fire in her eyes, looking like she wanted to swallow me whole. All right, I waved my hand. Tomorrow is the weekend. How about I accompany you to a movie and shopping? She pondered for a moment, then nodded. Acceptable. At least you know what's good for you. Hearing this, Lily looked up and blinked her big eyes. But Daddy, didn't you say you were taking me to the amusement park tomorrow? I patted her head. Same thing. Doesn't delay anything. The little girl was happy. Then can we play first? I don't like shopping. No. Victoria got anxious, her face full of bad memories. Shopping and movie first. Otherwise, you'll say you're tired from playing and cry to go home and sleep. No, I made the agreement with Daddy first. Lily, you have to be sensible. The amusement park is prettier at night. No. Yes. Seeing them arguing over this again, I rubbed my forehead helplessly. Why couldn't there be a moment of peace? It felt like raising two kids. But days like this felt pretty good. Story complete.